When we are communicating, the goal is not to get it perfect. So don't let those moments of fumbles knock you down. Get really good at continuing to speak as if it didn't happen. They will forgive all of your flaws and imperfections if you know how to share your work in a way that gets them invested and excited. I promise you, if you consistently make your executive audience feel heroic when you are sharing your work with them, you will become insanely valuable within the organization. Welcome to The Art of Speaking Up, a podcast that helps professional women access the limitless potential that lies within them. I'm your host, Jessica Guzik, and my mission is to help you find that spark inside you that has the power to transform your career in ways you may not have thought possible. I'm so excited that you're here. And now, on to the show. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's episode is going to help you improve your verbal communication. Something that not everyone realizes is as you get deeper into your corporate career, it is your voice and your communication that gets you ahead faster than your actual execution. And I know this can feel backwards because it can be intuitive to think if I do good work, then I will get promoted within my company. But the challenge with that is that your work is never going to be as visible as your communication. The way that you get credit for your work is by speaking about your work. So you have to be able to speak really effectively in order to be seen as a leader. Now, this idea that you have to communicate well if you want to get ahead in your organization is an idea that would have filled me with dread and anxiety when I was at the very beginning of my own corporate career and really struggling with confidence and struggling with finding my voice. And if you're having a thought that sounds something like, oh no, this feels stressful, I have to be good at speaking up if I want to get promoted, and I'm struggling with confidence and I'm not very good at it, so how am I going to make my goals and dreams come true? I just want to give you some reassurance that becoming a powerful voice in the room does not require you to be perfect. It does not require you to change your personality and speak as someone you're not. And in today's episode, I'm going to be teaching you lessons that allow you to be your imperfect, authentic, beautiful self while also being an incredibly effective communicator. Today, I'm going to be teaching you the 3 foundational categories of verbal communication and how to thrive across each of these 3 categories. These 3 categories are the 3 areas that you will want to get strong in so that you can develop a reputation that helps you get ahead within your organization. I am very excited about this episode because I'm using an analogy for the entire episode. And the analogy that I'm using today is the analogy of dance. So I'm going to use the idea of different styles of dance to help teach you the different styles of verbal communication. And each of the 3 styles of verbal communication corresponds to a specific style of dance. The 3 categories of dance that I'm going to be using to map out today's episode are number 1, choreographed dance, number 2, freestyle dance, and number 3, partner dance. Each of these styles of dance corresponds to a specific style of verbal communication. And for each one, I'm going to teach you what style of communication it corresponds to and how to get really good at that style. So let's start with the first one, which is choreographed dance. A choreographed dance is a routine that is planned in advance. Someone decides what all of the dance moves and steps are going to be. They learn them, and then they go and they execute and perform the choreography. This would be analogous to any form of speaking that you have planned in advance. So some examples would include a presentation where you have all of your slides and talking points created well before the actual presentation, or a meeting where you have a clear agenda planned out and you're mapping exactly what it is you want to cover. Any situation where you are planning what you're going to say in advance is what I like to think about as quote unquote choreographed communication. To help you get good at choreographed communication, I'm going to start by sharing the biggest pitfall that gets in the way of people being good at it. And then I'm going to share with you my best tips for making a really powerful impression when you're communicating in a choreographed way. So the biggest thing that prevents people from doing an amazing job with pre-planned choreographed communication is perfectionism. A thought process that I see very often when I am coaching my clients is if I can deliver my talking points perfectly and nail every sentence, I will have a really big impact in the room. People will be impressed by me. They'll think that I'm smart and articulate. So I'm going to try to get every sentence just right. Now, I'm a perfectionist, so I deeply understand how true it feels in our minds when we're thinking, if I just get it perfectly, then it's going to be a big success. But I really want you to think about the dance component of this choreography analogy. I want you to imagine that you are sitting down in a chair and you are about to watch a dancer come out and perform a choreographed dance for you. In that moment, I want you to reflect on what would make that performance enjoyable for you as the audience member. Now, when I do this exercise and I imagine myself about to watch someone dance something choreographed, I am not thinking to myself, I hope this dancer gets every move just right. I hope they don't mess up any of the steps, and I hope they have 100% accuracy in executing the dance moves. That is not at all what I'm thinking. What I'm thinking is, I want to be entertained. I hope this dance is interesting. I hope this dance tells some sort of story or takes me on some sort of journey or makes me feel some sort of emotion within myself. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping to be moved. And that doesn't really hinge on whether the dancer gets the moves just right and nails every transition. It hinges on the dancer's ability to create beautiful choreography that can really transport me and tell me a story that makes me feel emotionally invested. As an audience, when we are watching someone, it's not perfection that makes it interesting to us. It's the journey that we go on with that person. I think a really great real-world example of this is Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is arguably not the most talented vocalist of all the different pop stars and not the most talented dancer of all of the pop stars, and probably also not the most talented performer, honestly. Like if you put her up against other pop stars who sing and dance and perform, I would argue that her execution is less perfect. And yet her fan base is much larger than many pop stars who are more quote unquote perfect in their singing and dance moves and execution than Taylor Swift is. And one of the reasons her fan base is so dedicated is because her work evokes emotion. It makes people feel something. So when people are listening to her music or watching her concert, they're not thinking, did she hit that note just right? Am I super impressed by these vocals? They're thinking, oh my gosh, I relate, I resonate. This story has so much meaning for me. So a big takeaway that I want you to come away with is that while our brains might think that perfection is how we impress an audience, Perfection is actually one of the least interesting things to an audience. What an audience really cares about is their experience. They want to be taken on a journey. And this is true whether it's a Taylor Swift concert or whether it's a presentation in a corporate environment. I promise you, when executives leave the room after you have given a presentation, they are not going to be saying things like, "Oh my gosh, she got every sentence just right. She should totally be promoted." Or, "Oh my gosh, she didn't fumble her words one single time. She is ready for a leadership position." We can kind of see how that sounds a little wonky, right? That's not what they're going to be saying. They're going to be talking about the way your work made them feel. They're going to be saying things like, "Oh my gosh, I'm really excited about this initiative she's leading." Or, "Oh my gosh, I'm really encouraged by the data that she shared and what it means for next quarter and where our company is headed." So when they leave the room impressed by what you shared with them, it will not be your quote unquote perfection that impressed them. It will be the emotional journey that you took them on that they will remember and come away with. That is the thing that is going to impress them, which means that when you are doing any sort of quote unquote choreographed communication, you want to focus on taking your audience on a journey that is emotionally engaging for them. They will forgive all of your flaws and imperfections if you know how to share your work in a way that gets them invested and excited. So I want to share some of my top tips to help you do that. These are all things that I teach my clients inside of my program. Tip number 1, always talk about why your audience should care about the topic you are presenting. You want to go one step beyond the topic and into the deeper why underneath the topic. So instead of just talking about your project plan, talk about why your project plan is important for the future of the company. Instead of just talking about your hiring update, talk about why that hiring update is going to enable the organization to reach their goals. These bigger whys are the things that executives truly care about. And when they hear you talking about these things, they automatically become invested and interested. Tip number 2, this is one of my favorite tips. Create a hero story. A hero story is just a story where someone emerges as the hero. And a lot of times when people are presenting in a corporate environment, they think that they need to appear as the hero. They think, I need to be so smart and sound so amazing, and I need everyone to see me as the hero. When we think this way, we miss the biggest opportunity that is right in front of us in the room, which is to make our audience of executives feel like the hero. When you're planning out what you're going to say in your presentation, I want you to ask yourself, how is this work going to help my audience win? How is it going to help them look and feel successful when it comes to the work that they're doing in the business? So, for example, instead of just saying, "Hey, everyone, here's my project plan," you could say, "Hey, everyone, here's my project plan. Once this project is complete, your team will have the data that they need to get better at increasing sales." When I talk about my work in this way, all of a sudden, my audience is the hero. They're the ones that are going to win. They're the ones that are going to reap the benefits. And I promise you, if you consistently make your executive audience feel heroic when you are sharing your work with them, you will become insanely valuable within the organization. The one thing executives care about most is they want to do their job well. And when you communicate your work in a way that shows them, "Hey, everyone, my work is going to help you do your work even better," they're going to be like, "Oh my gosh, thank you." And they're going to want to see more of your work. and more of you, and you're going to become a higher priority in the back of their minds because they know that what you're doing is creating a pathway to success for them. That is tip number 2. Tip number 3, my final tip, is when you're delivering a presentation or running a meeting where you've prepared all the talking points in advance, don't stress out if you fumble. Fumbling or messing something up or not saying something the way that you plan to say it, none of these things are a deal breaker. Instead of focusing on getting your talking points just right, I want you to focus on recovering quickly and effectively whenever you fumble or fall off track. This is something that I really hammer home when I am coaching my clients inside of my program. When we are communicating, the goal is not to get it perfect. The goal is to get really good at recovering from imperfections. So don't let those moments of fumbles knock you down. Get really good at continuing to speak as if it didn't happen. This is what really skilled speakers are doing. If you look closely, you'll see they're not getting every word right. They just have so much confidence that when they get the words wrong, we barely even register it because they've moved on to the next thing and they're not dwelling on it and their energy isn't shrinking because of it. So those are my biggest tips. And with that, I'm going to move into the second style of dance, which also corresponds to the second style of verbal communication, and that is freestyle dance. So when I say freestyle dance, I just mean you're dancing without choreography. So the way that you would dance at a party or at a wedding, there's no pre-planned dance moves, you're just dancing. So freestyle communication would be any form of communication that is unplanned. So this would include sharing contributions on the spot, speaking off the cuff when you get asked a question in a meeting. Any situation where you are speaking and the things you are sharing are spontaneous or unplanned is what I think about as freestyle. Now, I want to share the number one pitfall that gets in the way of people being effective at freestyle verbal communication, and that is treating it like choreographed communication. Choreographed communication is supposed to be planned in advance. Freestyle communication is not. And when we try to choreograph what is supposed to be freestyle, it doesn't turn out well. I want you to imagine a wedding and there's a dance floor and everyone's like dancing and jamming out to Sweet Caroline or whatever your favorite like wedding dance song is. I want you to imagine everyone's on the dance floor jamming out to this song, having a great time. And there's one person off to the side who is trying to choreograph steps as they're dancing to the song. And they look super stressed out and they don't look like they're having fun because they're so focused on trying to get the quote unquote right dance moves. That's kind of what happens with us when we're in a work situation that requires freestyle communication and we're trying to choreograph it. This happens a lot. You're in a meeting where everybody's exchanging ideas and you're trying to script and choreograph your contributions in your head before you share them. The problem is that doesn't work. The meeting's moving quickly and there's no way to stay present and listen to what other people are saying and choreograph your contribution at the same time. If you truly want to participate in the meeting and really be in the conversation, you have to be listening to what other people are saying and responding freely on the spot. Now, I can tell you from being a recovering perfectionist myself and also coaching women who are working through a lot of perfectionist tendencies, freestyle communication for perfectionists can feel downright terrifying. Because for perfectionists, when they're able to choreograph and plan what they're going to say, even in those situations, the perfectionist mind gets so anxious about getting it just right. So imagine the anxiety that can come up when we don't even have time to plan it. We don't even have time to think it through. We just have to show up and speak and trust that the right words are going to come out of our mouth without us having to plan them. I do a lot of work on freestyle communication with my clients inside of the Art of Speaking Up Academy because that perfectionism can make freestyle communication feel so scary and debilitating. Now, luckily, there is a path to getting good at this. And the path to getting good at this is the same path that makes someone really good at freestyle dance. What is the one thing that will make someone really good at dancing freestyle? That one thing is confidence. When you have confidence, you're just able to dance and not be self-conscious about whether the moves are good or right or perfect. And similarly, when it comes to freestyle communication, confidence is the thing that helps you get really good at it. When you are confident, you aren't so afraid of getting the words wrong. And I really, really, really want you to hear this. The intense, rigid desire to make sure the words are correct comes from a lack of confidence. If we want to build confidence and become a better freestyle communicator, we have to be willing for the words to be imperfect. And the reason I share this is because this might represent a fundamental reorientation of your goals. The reason that I know this is because when I'm working with my clients, I often have to help them reorient their goals. They often come into the program and come into working with me with the goal of always saying things perfectly. And I know from the work that I do that that goal will not help them become an amazing communicator. Amazing communicators don't get it perfect. And one of the reasons why they're amazing is because they're not hamstrung by their desire for perfectionism. We have to let go of the desire to be perfect if we want to get good at freestyle communication. We have to be willing to make mistakes and say something in a way that's a little bit off and roll with the punches in order to experience the freedom and flexibility that is required to speak in a way that's unplanned. And something that I want to point out to you is that one of the ways that we realize just how confident someone is when they mess up in front of us and we get to watch how they respond to the mess up. When we see someone mess something up and they're comfortable with it and they roll forward and maybe they make a joke about it, our respect for that person goes up because our thought process is, oh, they are so comfortable with themselves that they aren't afraid to make a mistake. And that's what I encourage you to aspire to. Rather than aspiring to perfect communication, I want you to aspire to be the person who makes everyone in the room feel relaxed because you are comfortable with yourself and your own imperfections and the very natural flaws that happen to all of us when we speak. So the most important thing that I can share with you when it comes to freestyle communication and getting good at speaking off the cuff is you want to work on building the inner confidence you need to feel less afraid of being imperfect. Now, I want to share a few other quick tips that will help you get good at freestyle communication. These are all tips that I teach inside my program. So tip number 1, let emotion lead. When you feel a positive emotion, it's easier for the words to flow out of your mouth. So if you're trying to share an off-the-cuff suggestion, ask yourself, what about this suggestion excites me? And lead with that and lean into that. When you start talking about the thing that excites you, that instant mood lift that you get makes it easier for the words to flow right out of you. The next tip that can really help is when you're speaking, use what I call guardrail phrases. Guardrail phrases are phrases that help your audience set expectations around what you're about to say. So a couple examples of guardrail phrases would be things like, I'm going to share some unstructured thoughts, or I'm just going to think out loud right here. When we use phrases like this, what we're signaling to our audience is, hey, the thing I'm going to share might be a little bit messy because I'm just thinking out loud. I'm just brainstorming. It buys us permission to be more unstructured. And when we set that expectation with our audience, They're very forgiving of us if we are being unstructured. And my final tip for getting good at freestyle communication is build emotional resilience. It requires emotional resilience to speak up and have it be imperfect and have the occasional fumble and still be able to bounce back and keep going. The more emotionally resilient you are, the less afraid you will be of making a mistake here and there. So that is freestyle communication. And now I'm onto the final style of dance and the final category of verbal communication, which is partner dance. So for this style of dance, because I was reaching the limits of my own expertise around dance, I had to get help from ChatGPT. So I asked it to teach me about partner dance, and I'll share with you what I learned. Here's what it said. Partner dance is an improvised form of movement where two dancers co-create in real time. The leader initiates each move and guides the direction, while the follower responds and builds on that guidance. But neither dancer knows exactly what will happen next. The leader's role is to take clear initiative so the partnership flows smoothly. So basically, what I took away from this is that partner dance is not choreographed. Two people are dancing together and one person is taking the lead so that the other person can follow, thereby enabling them to dance in a way that is synchronized, but not actually choreographed. So basically, the leader is the one driving. So the verbal communication equivalent to partner dance is any situation where you, as the speaker, are driving towards a result. You might be driving towards a result with one other person in the room. So maybe you're getting your boss to approve a plan, but you could also be driving towards a result with many people in the room. So maybe you're helping a group of stakeholders reach a final decision. But for this category of communication, the essence of it is that there's a leader, and the role of the leader is to move everyone forward. This style of communication is particularly important if you want to get promoted, because when you're reaching for that next promotion, you're trying to show people that you can lead at a bigger level. And the best way for you to show them that is to actually do it when you're in the room with them. The biggest pitfall that I see with this style of communication is that people don't fully step into the role of the leader, either because they don't see themselves as a leader or because it feels emotionally exposing to take up that much space in a room. So instead of powerfully leading and guiding everyone in the room, they communicate in a way that's more passive, and then they miss the opportunity to position themselves as a capable, action-oriented leader. Now, I asked ChatGPT to tell me what happens in partner dance when the leader isn't fully stepping into the role of the leader, and what it shared with me mirrored the exact dynamics that happen in the corporate world when someone isn't fully stepping up to lead everyone in the room. Here's what ChatGPT said. When the leader hesitates or fails to lead clearly, the follower is left guessing, which creates tension, confusion, or even stillness in the dance. The improvisation breaks down, not because the follower isn't capable, but because there's no direction to respond to. In this way, the dance depends on the leader owning their role with intention and clarity. This is an exact model for what happens in a corporate environment when the person leading the presentation or running the meeting isn't stepping into the role of the leader. When this happens, the audience doesn't know what to do. They don't know why they're there. The meeting feels still and stuck and unproductive because the leader hasn't embraced their role. Now, if you're anything like my clients, you want to embrace the role of the leader. And the reason that you're not doing it isn't because you don't want to do it or because you don't want to put in the effort. It's because of the emotional discomfort that you feel when you step up and truly behave as a leader in the room, which is why one of my first tips when it comes to playing the role of the leader is to make a conscious decision. Is it worth it to you to experience some emotional discomfort in order to find your voice as a leader and learn the skill of leading everyone in a room? And one thing that I'll say is it's not just uncomfortable for you, it's uncomfortable for many people. I remember in my corporate career in the early days when I was struggling with confidence and I had to lead a meeting or share my work with people, I went in hoping they would ask questions and they would direct the meeting and I could just respond to whatever they were saying. It felt so scary for me to step up and own the space and say, hey, everyone, here's what I have for you. Here's what we're doing. It felt emotionally exposing and terrifying, but I got to a point where I realized the only way that this is ever going to feel comfortable is if I'm willing to work through it despite it feeling uncomfortable. And the good news is that this type of leadership in a room gets easier as you practice it. It goes from feeling uncomfortable to being really empowering and fun. So it really is worth it to feel that extra vulnerability because that vulnerability is going to lead you to a skill that you will have for the rest of your career. Now, I want to give you some concrete tips to help you get good at leading in the room and get good at quote unquote partner dance. So a couple of extra tips on this one. Number one, anytime you are preparing to lead a meeting or give a presentation, I want you to step back and ask yourself, what do I need from my audience? I really want you to think about it as you are asking them for their time. Why? Tell them how they should use their time in the room with you. Do you need them to help unblock something for you? Do you need them to learn something important that is going to impact the business? Do you need them to approve something that you are working on? I really want you to think about all of the things that you need from your audience, and I want you to clearly communicate those things to them at every step of the way. At the beginning of your meeting, I want you to communicate what you will be asking your stakeholders to contribute. When you're sharing content and slides and you're getting deeper into it, I want you to communicate the specific things you want from your audience. Do you want them to pressure test a slide? Do you want them to ask you questions about what's on the slide? Do you want them to approve what's on the slide? Do you want them to help shape what's on the slide? I really want you to think about what are the things that I need from them. And as you are going through the meeting, I want you to set those expectations. When you do this, not only do you get such beautiful, deep engagement in the room, but even better, what you are implicitly communicating to people is when you're in the room with me, I lead you, I guide you, I use your time smartly and effectively. And that is one of the most powerful messages that you can send to senior leaders at your company. Now, if you want help with this, I have a free worksheet that guides you step by step on how to effectively lead your audience to an outcome. It is called the Bias to Action worksheet, and it guides you through prompts that will help you come up with exact talking points for your next meeting. You can grab it for free. I will link it in the show notes or go to jessguzikcoaching.com/bias to action, all one word. So that brings me to the end of this episode, and I want to do a quick summary of the 3 styles of dance, aka the 3 styles of verbal communication, and what will make you good at each one. So number 1, the first type is choreographed communication. This is any communication that you have planned in advance. The key to getting good at this is to pivot away from trying to get it perfect and instead focus on being emotionally engaging to your audience. The second type of dance / verbal communication is freestyle. This is any situation where you're speaking spontaneously or off the cuff. The key to getting good at freestyle is stop trying to choreograph it and instead focus on growing your inner self-confidence. The name of the game is to feel the fear and do it anyway. The final type of dance, partner dance, corresponds to any situation where you are leading a stakeholder or a group of stakeholders to a specific outcome. The most important thing that you need to do to get good at this is to embrace the role of the leader in the room, even if it feels a little bit scary or uncomfortable. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I had a ton of fun, and I hope you walked away from it with new knowledge that you didn't have before. If you want to learn these 3 types of verbal communication in more depth, I cover all 3 of these inside of my program, the Art of Speaking Up Academy. Inside this program, you learn simple, beginner-friendly tools that will help you communicate better across all situations, whether it's choreographed, freestyle, or partner-led. Inside of the Academy, I also help you do the inner work to grow your confidence, because all 3 of these types of communication require you to feel genuinely confident inside. If you are ready to build that confidence on the inside and learn to sound effective and powerful on the outside, join the waitlist by clicking the link in the show notes. I strongly recommend joining the waitlist because the fall cohorts of the Art of Speaking Up Academy are nearly full, so I am not going to be opening enrollment publicly. The only way to be offered a spot is to join the waitlist. After you join the waitlist, you will get a private invite from me to claim one of the last remaining spots in the upcoming cohorts. Thank you so much for tuning into the Art of Speaking Up podcast, and I will catch you in the next episode. Bye.